Here you go, bro.
Welcome to another edition of 22MW. My name's Tony. I'm coming to you from EBK Studios. And today I'm joined by Kurtis. Kurtis, what is that vinegar smell?
I have no idea.
You don't smell a little douchey? I think it's you.
About what?
You remember you gave me so much crap about the Tyler Mane thing and how even when you tried to correct me, I was like a douche about it?
Yeah.
And then you did the exact same thing about the number of Oscars Jennifer Lawrence had last week?
I still am sure it's 2.
Okay. So even more douchey smell is
I think I was wrong about the I think I was wrong that I think I got them reversed the way she won them, but she definitely has 2.
No, she definitely only has 1. I looked it up after the show last week. All right.
I'm going to look it up right now.
Okay, I'll do my top 20 too.
Okay.
Top 22.
My top 22 this week is a wrestling match. I haven't talked about wrestling in a while. It was for the New Japan Super Juniors tournament from 2016. It was between a guy named Ricochet and a guy named Will Ospreay. And the interesting thing about this match is it kind of set the wrestling world on fire because this match is like super athletic. Like it's one of the most athletic. Like if anyone ever said like professional wrestlers aren't athletes, I would show them this match. It's really just crazy how beautiful this thing is that they pulled off in front of, a live crowd. But, it also makes a lot of like old school wrestling fans mad because they don't really sell. It's like a 20-minute match and they do some really hardcore stuff, but they don't like sell that it hurt them. So it does take away from the match, but it's still a spectacle in its own right and really cool. I'm going to put the link in the notes, so I recommend you checking it out if you're even somewhat interested in wrestling because this was a phenomenal match. These guys do some amazing stuff. Kurtis?
And someone is definitely messing around with IMDb and stuff because she's definitely one too. Maybe they went back and retroactively changed it or something. Like took it away from.
Like Reggie Bush, she gave it back.
Yeah.
Okay. What a douche. Okay.
I don't think I was I was condescending about it as you were. So you were very
Yeah, but you were aware of it and you had just pointed out how I was doing it, and then you did a very similar thing. So even though it was to a lesser degree, in some ways it's greater if you know the math of all the doucheness. But what's your top 22?
Man, it's getting harder to do this every week. Like, I've been watching the NBA playoffs. I think that's been like 3 top 22s for me. Went and saw Roger Klein again yesterday. I've done that one to death. Took Gene.
You took your mom though this time, right?
No, I didn't take my mom.
Okay.
I took Gene, my son.
I saw that, and Emily tagged mom. It said attending Roger.
Mom tags herself in all the pictures that we post. I don't know what I don't even know what that means, but she does that every time.
But it made it look like she was attending it with you.
Yeah, I don't know. No, we went there to have fun, so mom didn't go.
But you took Emily.
Yeah, we had a good time.
Okay, all right.
So it's really just gonna kind of at this point. Most top 22s are probably just kind of an excuse to briefly talk about something. So, also, I sound terrible. I apologize. Not that I don't usually sound awful, but I finally got caught up on Silicon Valley, and I do love that show, and it is very funny, but it's getting way too entourage-y.
Yeah, I figured you would say that at some point.
Where just what happens is totally irrelevant the next episode, or at least 2 episodes later. The big drama of the episode is totally rendered pointless. And I actually, since I got caught up, I've been watching it while I work out, and I've been working out a lot more, so I've had time to watch it. And I just put a TV in my garage where my gym is, and I said, well, you know what? I'm finally gonna take Tony's advice and go back and start watching Entourage. And this sounds weird today, but I actually never saw the first or maybe even the second season because back then, if back when that show first came on, if you hadn't seen the episodes, you just kind of had to start at 3. There was no HBO Go or Netflix or anything like that. You could go to Best Buy and buy the DVDs for $100 or something ridiculous, but you kind of just had to start in the middle, and there was no catch up or binge to do anything like that. So I never actually saw the first season, and I watched the first episode. And of course, the first episode ends with Vince didn't get the movie, and I was just like, "Oh God, I don't know if I can do this." I love those characters, except for Vince. He's okay, but I just don't know if I can just sit through 7 seasons of Vince didn't get the movie. Like, I get it, he didn't get the movie, and the show ends, and the next week everything's fine.
Okay. That's fine. And both of those shows just have such great characters that I don't even really care what they do, just as long as they talk in between the things they're doing and have funny conversations like they always seem to do.
That's fair. I just wish they wouldn't try to make these points so dramatic just to underscore them 2 weeks later and say they didn't really matter. It's just a pet peeve of mine.
Look, it's TNT knows drama, not HBO, okay?
I mean, I think HBO is pretty good. It's the comedy drama they have. It's the drama they try to put in the comedies I think they have problems with. But still a good show, very funny, and if you haven't watched it, you can catch up pretty quickly. It's only 25, 26 episodes at this point.
Yeah, very enjoyable show for me. All right, so let's get into our Watch It, Rent It, Forget It for this week. It's a movie directed by Steven Spielberg. It's called BFG. Animated film. It stars Mark Rylance, who won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor last year for another Spielberg movie. It's also got Jermaine Clement and Bill Hader and many, many others in it as well. What did you think about this movie, Curtis? And watch it, rent it, or forget it?
I'm going to go rent it. Disney usually kills it. They're very good at what they do. I think they've kind of earned the respect that most of what they put out, unless it's totally live action, is featuring The Rock or something like that, it's probably going to be a pretty good movie. My main problem with this, though, was that it looks terrible. Didn't we prove in Jungle Book we can seamlessly blend live action actors into and maybe this is a little bit different because that was basically a real environment. Yes, the animals talked, but it was a real jungle with real animals that all looked amazing except for the 3D. But
it was all done on blue screen.
Yeah, I know.
It's all chroma key,
yeah.
So like.
Well, I mean, it's mostly all animated.
Yeah. And
this is mostly all animated, but this just doesn't look good. It looks like a cartoon. It doesn't look seamless. It looks like cartoon with a little girl actress in the middle of it.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. I mean, parts of it look good. The animation looks good, but he's right. The blending doesn't look good. I agree. It's a rent it for me as well. Kind of feels like Hugo to me. You have a big name director going in and doing an animated film. So I don't know. Could be good, could not, but I'll probably check it out at some point. All right, our first movie for this week is from 1990, directed by Ivan Reitman, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Penelope Ann Miller, Richard Tyson, Pamela Reed. It's called Kindergarten Cop. This is a movie I didn't quite realize how many times I had seen this movie. I know I haven't seen this movie in many, many years. I never even saw it on DVD.
I thought you were going to say you had never seen it before.
No.
Because we used to watch it. We used to rent this movie all the time growing up.
And that's what I got from rewatching it. I remembered almost every line of this movie and could quote it before. I feel like I must have seen this movie 100 times, but not in 20 years.
I think the Chipmunk movie was the only movie we rented from Video Corner more than this one.
Okay, we did rent that one a lot too. Well, I did. I don't know if you were such a big fan, but it had that. What was that song? Bullet, bullet, right? Yeah. Right. Okay. I definitely didn't catch that one on DVD, though I probably would like to. But you know what? I had so much fun watching this back. This movie held up for me. This is something that kind of surprised me out of this was Richard Tyson's a really good bad guy in this. I'm surprised he kind of is a nobody. He doesn't get he didn't get a lot of work after this. Hasn't got, probably didn't have a lot of work before. I'm not very sure, but he was really good in this. Arnold is good in this. I'm not like this huge Arnold Schwarzenegger fan. I think he's real hit or miss. He was hit for me in this. The kids were super funny. I like that they cast some ugly kids. Because really, if you're ugly, that's the only time you can get away with being ugly and, get cast in movies is when you're an ugly kid. So I felt good for those kids that got cast. And I just really enjoyed watching this movie back. Super funny, super quotable. tells a good story. I like if I ever have amnesia and I come back, or like one of those strokes that makes you forget stuff, I hope that this is like one of the first 5 movies I watch, because I like that they don't tell you who the kid is out the gate. Like, you get to see the class. Like, obviously I know because I've seen the movie 100 times, but you get to see the class and kind of meet the kids before you know the kid that's the focal point. And I think that that's kind of something fun that they did there. What did you think about this, Curtis?
Yeah, I still kind of like this movie, and it maybe some of it is nostalgia. I don't think it's definitely not the greatest film of all time or anything like that for sure. I think the story's kind of dumb, but it serves its purpose. It gets Arnold in front of these kids, which is that's the charm of the movie. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger with a bunch of kids who are kind of annoying. Some of them are not very good actors, but that's all right. Kids don't have to always be a great actor. And that's really the charm of the movie, him with these kids. And I do love Arnold. I've talked about that before, so I like him in this movie. I liked him in Twins when he was with Ivan Reitman. I've seen Junior, but I don't really remember a lot about it, so I can't really remember if I liked him in that one or not. That movie was kind of stupid. Obviously Ivan Reitman, who's a quality director, likes working with Arnold. Maybe they'll get back together now. I don't know.
I haven't seen Junior, but maybe, I don't know. I'd rather Reitman and Howard Stern get back together and make another movie.
But I do like this. The stuff with the bad guy and his mom is real weird. It's creepy, right? He's this drug kingpin, but his mom tells him what to do and bosses him around.
There's lots of people who don't have good moms. Like, our mom was like a little negligent and talked on the phone probably too much, but we always had meals, and she tried to set a good example for us. But not everyone's mom is that way.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Right?
It's just weird that he's this huge drug kingpin, but he basically has to do whatever his mom says. I don't know. Her addition's kind of weird.
Parents always want to tell me about how like good unconditional love is, and I always say like, no, it's not a good thing. So I don't know. There you go.
Well, I mean, it seems like she does unconditionally love him, but she also likes to boss him around. I don't know. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, this movie's good, but it's all about Arnie and the kids. I do think that Tyson Chandler, is that his name? No, that's not his name.
Richard Tyson.
Richard Tyson. Tyson Chandler's the center for the Phoenix Suns.
You're doing that real old guy thing. Like, I'm kind of even starting to get into it too. Where like you're like you're like the Facebook, or you're just like you hear a lot of people say like 30 on 30 instead of 34 30. That kind of old guy stuff.
My old guy stuff is at this point I have too many names in my head and I just can't remember them all anymore. But
okay.
Between actors and musicians and friends and family, and all my friends have 3 kids now. After like the 10th kid, I think maybe the one that came after Gene, I told my friends, like, I'm not gonna remember any of your kids' names anymore. It's gonna be Jacob's kid 1, Jacob's kid 2, Jacob's kid 3. That's their names, because
That's how I am with stepmoms. After the 10th one, I'm like, I'm not gonna remember your name. Anyway, I was watching this movie and it kind of hit me like this movie came out in 1990. That means it probably was filmed in 1989. I was like, all of these kids are actually older than me, except for the young Joe Pesci kid. Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina kid. Like, he was born in 1986. He must have been like 3 and he clearly like is a foot shorter than all the other kids.
He just killed the reading of that line.
He must have. I mean, but he's a good kid. You saw this kid and stuff for years, right? He was on Full House, I think, and it just seemed like he popped up in a lot of different stuff. But
he looked familiar, like that. He had one of those faces, like, yeah, I think I've seen that kid in other stuff.
The face is because he looks like Joe Pesci.
Okay, maybe that's it. I don't know.
But I really enjoyed this movie. I would recommend watching this movie. Did you watch this with your son?
No, I thought about it, but he wasn't home, and I needed to knock it out. So
I don't really know who you make a movie like this for. I guess this is a family movie, right? So maybe it
has some bad language in it. It has some blood.
A naked dude.
Yeah.
But I guess the naked dude's more comic relief than sexual, so maybe that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, our mom let us watch it 55 times, so if she let us watch it, it's probably okay for your kids.
Yeah, that's really true. So, all right. So what are you gonna rate it?
This is a purely nostalgic rating, but I do love this movie. It's a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, this is 4 young Joe Pesci's out of 5 for me. And that probably partly is nostalgia because I did remember every line of it, but I also think it's a pretty solid film.
Yeah, I do too, but I don't know that other people will love it as much as they didn't grow up watching it a ton of times. I would, if someone had never seen it before, especially someone who's young and didn't grow up in that time, I'd be interested to see what they thought.
Yeah, I mean,
and not what they thought about the next movie.
Very true. All right, up next. Directed by Don Michael Paul from 2016, starring Dolph Lundgren and Bill Bellamy. It's a sequel. It's called Kindergarten Cop 2.
It's not a sequel.
See how quotable that movie is? Like that line, when I was a kid, that line where they're like, he's a poo-poo head, he's a poo-poo face. And then just from the back of the classroom, you know, he's a cock-a-poo-poo. I don't even know what that means, but it was so funny. Anyways, Kindergarten Cop 2, I think this was straight to DVD, straight to VOD, straight to Netflix even. And that's what I said last week, was that I think these movies would have two very different feels because they're made, 26 years apart. And they did. This one really kind of touches on how ridiculous parenting is nowadays, like as opposed to like let's put him with the kids. It's like more of like parents are out of control and they're terrible. It did a lot of callbacks to the first movie, and the one thing I was actually like I was kind of surprised was when he actually drops the kid. Like when Arnold drops the kid in the first movie, when I was watching I was like, oh, I don't think they would do that now. I don't think they would have an adult just drop a kid, but they did. Dolph Lundgren did it, and Dolph Lundgren's taller than Arnold Schwarzenegger, so actually he dropped him further.
I can't believe it's 2016 and we have a movie, if you can call this a movie, that features a Grey Poupon joke. Like, isn't that was early in the film. Sorry, I'm not going to call this a film. I'm barely going to call it a movie. I was like, oh god, we're gonna go that route. I thought it did a terrible job with the parent. Like, it couldn't make up its mind on the parenting and teaching. And in 2016, it was all over the place with that. It just did a terrible job of it. It did a terrible job of everything. This movie's just really bad. It starts out pretty early on. I mean, I'm almost led to believe that Dolph Lundgren's character had this plan, like that he started this movie even before they got into the whole plot. He's like, I really need to go undercover at a kindergarten school, because when they get to the part where the plot starts to develop, he's purposely going out of his way so that when it comes time, he can just say like, oh, I'll just go undercover at the kindergarten. And they're like, well, no, because the kids saw you. He's like, no, they didn't. And it's like, yeah, wait, why weren't you helping us out doing all that stuff? Like, you should have been doing all that stuff with Bill Bellamy and not just hiding in this room. But no, he was just doing it so he really, really wanted to go undercover at a kindergarten. And maybe he saw the original Kindergarten Cop and thought it would be funny. I don't know.
Well, I don't know if you picked up on this, but his name is the same name as the woman who's supposed to be the kindergarten teacher in the first one. They recast the role as so he's already kind of done it before in the canon of Kindergarten Cop.
I think they stated that he'd never been a teacher before. That all that was
right. He didn't make it. She didn't make it to be in a. Oh yeah, she was a teacher prior, but I don't know. Okay, so the canon's a little wishy-washy, but I don't know. I thought that was so weird. Like, I think me and Curtis are gonna have a discussion about the Ghostbusters thing coming up a little closer to that show, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about this, so I won't touch on it now, but just a weird movie. Felt really out of place. Like, it felt it feels exactly what the case is, that this is just all about making money, and they're just like, oh, we got to get 12 movies out a year, just crank them out Adam Sandler style, and that's what this movie felt like. Had a little kid named Cowboy in it, and I thought that was annoying. And then all the kids, like, there wasn't one ugly kid. That bothered me.
That one kid had subtitles, and he didn't, like, I understood it. Maybe it's because the words are on the screen, but I understood everything he was saying. He didn't sound that much different than the other kids, but they gave him subtitles.
It was so weird that they did that, and I'm like, I think it would actually be funnier if you had trouble
Yeah.
understanding what he was saying.
It's not like he gave huge plot points. I mean, I think he
Right, exactly.
I think it would have been fine.
You know, a lot of the movies that I personally have, I've taken the subtitles off of, and the X-Men movies are the movies I've done that with, and I put them up for Kyle so that he could review those movies with us, and he was like, "Yeah, I got exactly what was happening without the subtitles." And I don't know. I think it's very possible. Not with a movie like instructions not included, but with a movie like this, definitely 100%. You can make it out what he's saying or not make out what he's saying. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, this is just really bad. I don't have a ton to say about it. It was like it's just bad joke after bad joke. In fact, I wouldn't even call it joke. Like most of the jokes are just they seem like they're setups to a joke, and then they never give the punchline.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it felt like they were just trying to talk about how ridiculous parents have become,
And they did a terrible job of it. And not that I think one way or the other is right or wrong. I mean, obviously, I have my feelings on it, but I don't really care what the movie had to say. It just did a terrible job of doing that. If that was what they wanted to do in this movie, okay. But they did a terrible job of it.
I think it made a good point with the peanut thing, but other than that, yeah.
But that's just the only thing it made about the peanut thing is that's 100. That wasn't an exaggeration. That's really what happened.
Yeah, exactly. It's 100% true. Like there's schools that just don't even allow peanuts in the front door.
No, there's not. That would assume there are schools that allow peanuts. There aren't.
Oh, okay. So they're all gone.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is part of the.
So no more peanut butter and honey sandwiches. Like that's all the lunchroom seemed to serve when I was growing up at Westside Elementary and Primary. It was peanut butter and honey sandwiches 3 days a week.
It's one of those self-fulfilling prophecies for because I've always wondered, like, when I was a kid, no one was allergic to anything, and now everyone's allergic to everything. And my kid had some allergies. He had to take him to the emergency room because he had a real bad milk allergy, but he eventually got over it, thankfully, because that would really suck to be allergic to milk for your entire life. Everything has milk in it. But looking it up, like, the peanut allergy thing is because so many parents don't give their kids peanuts at an early age now because they're worried about the peanut allergy. So they develop an allergy to peanuts, whether if they had just given it to them early, they probably wouldn't have got it. That's at least one of the theories. That makes sense to me because no one was allergic to peanuts when I was a kid, and now everyone is.
Yep, and I that's what I'd read up on it too, was that's the reason why all these allergies exist, is because people are being too overprotected.
Yeah, I took my kid to a rock concert with no hearing protection yesterday. I'm father of the year.
Yeah, but those guys don't rock hard, do they?
They rock medium hard.
Okay, medium hard. So they're like...
It's not a heavy
7.
metal concert, but
yeah,
they occasionally up to 8 maybe.
Okay, all right. I mean, I remember all the concerts my parents used to take me to. That's 0. Anyways... Mom regrets not taking Andy to see Rod Stewart. That he begged her to go see Rod Stewart, and then anyways.
I'm sure that cost a fortune that we could. Like, Rod Stewart's probably not cheap to go see.
That's probably true. But Mom always made stuff like that work. I don't know. But she was pretty good at that. She's good at talking on the phone too. All right. 2 MTV Beach Houses out of 5.
Oh, that's ridiculous. This is a 1 out of 5. This is awful. It's crap. Do not watch it. I somehow I missed that this was on Netflix, and I almost paid to rent it to watch it. And then right before, thank you Roku for telling me, because I was looking around trying to find the cheapest place to rent it, and I remembered, oh yeah, Roku will just show you everything, and it was like there. Oh, it's free on Netflix. Oh, thank God I don't have to pay for this. And then I watched it, and I was like, I'm really glad I didn't have to pay for this, because then I had to call Vudu or Amazon and ask for my money back. I should start renting it from Amazon. I bet if I called them back and said the movie was bad, they would refund my money.
Possibly.
Especially as much as I spend there.
Roku is the bomb. If you don't have a Roku and you do a lot of streaming stuff, I would say you need to get one, because it's the best graphic user interface I've ever seen.
I have 3 of them. It's really awesome.
I have 2, and as soon as I get a 4K TV, I'm going to get the 4K one as well. All right. Up next, our theater movie from this week. Actually, before we get into it, did you watch the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 2014? And
I did.
What do you what did you think about it?
It was all right. It's not great, but it's. I mean, I'm gonna kind of say the same thing about the second one. I like the Turtles, but I don't necessarily really love the movies they're in. The first one is okay. It's very watchable. We actually watched it twice. Gene had to watch it again after we watched the second one because he really likes these movies and he wants to watch them 50 times. But, very watchable. Again, the Turtles are good. I definitely like the. I'm starting to lead into the second one here. I'm trying to. I definitely like the new Leonardo over Johnny Knoxville in the second one.
Did you think that was weird that they just didn't ask him to come back?
No, when you watch the first one and watch the second one, the guy who plays him in the second one, who's the motion capture guy, is way better. So I think it totally made sense. Just don't invite him back. He's not good in the first one. He's definitely the weakest voice actor of the four in the movie, and he's supposed to be this leader, and it just doesn't come across at all. He sounds just like Johnny. He sounds like he's getting ready to bust into you while you're in the bathroom and start wailing on you, or push you down a hill in a porta potty or something. He doesn't sound like Leonardo, the leader of the Ninja
first thing
Turtles.
You said was a Bam Margera skit.
Whatever.
Johnny Knoxville. But all right, from 2016, directed by Dave Green, which Dave Green is like the most common director name ever. Maybe like if you went to high school with a Dave Green, probably. Anyways, starring Laura Linney, Megan Fox, Will Arnett, Stephen Amell, Brian T., Brad Garrett, Tony Shalhoub, Tyler Perry, 4-time world champion Sheamus, Gary Anthony Williams, and Jeremy Howard, who is my favorite, one of my favorite Breaking Bad characters, as we talked about in the past. It's called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Out of the Shadows. Out of the Shadow. Is it Shadow or Shadows?
I think it's Shadows.
Okay.
The title is really irrelevant to the movie, so.
Well, no, they keep saying it's coming out of the shadow. They say it 7 or 8 times. I think it's really kind of meta.
Okay.
But this movie, I didn't expect the first one to be good. I liked the Turtles. I didn't necessarily like anything else, but this movie, I kind of just really got into it and really dug it. I think that, if you look at a show like Smallville that came out in, 2000, and then you look at a show like Arrow, you kind of see how we've progressed. Like Smallville, they just held on to everything. They gave you everything in small doses, and then Arrow's like, bam, here you go. Slade Wilson, boom. Deathstroke, all these characters just right out the gate, and that's what this movie did. This movie almost made you feel like, how can they? What else does the Turtles canon have left to do?
This is what I hated about it, because
okay, sure. So it may make another movie worse, but for me, it made this movie good.
No, for me, it made this movie bad. I was ready for the first half hour, maybe even 45 minutes of the movie. I was ready to say this is the worst movie I watched this year, and then they got more into the Turtles and the whole thing with them, and they couldn't come out, and the ooze and all that stuff, and that stuff kind of worked for me. I was really disappointed it was wasted in a movie where there must have been some 35-year-old executive producer on this movie, or studio exec, who was just like, you have to cram in everything. I used to watch this cartoon show, and you have to cram in every single thing. Get the Rat King in there. I don't care. Just have him in the background. Find Leatherhead or whatever, and just put them all in there, because they just cram this stuff. The first 30 minutes of this movie is just the movie telling you that all these bad guys are working together without giving any reason why they would work together. It's just April O'Neil keeps saying, just repeating over and over again, because it makes no sense that Baxter Stockman is working with the Shredder. She just keeps saying it over and over again. There's nothing that shows why they're working together or explains why someone who could be a billionaire because he's super rich works for some recast Asian guy who likes to wear a metal helmet and wear knives. That part of it was just so stupid. And then Krang just shows up out of nowhere. He's like, Shredder's like, yeah, we'll work together, no problem. I'm working with this Baxter Stockman guy. I don't even know who he is. He's played terribly by Tyler Perry, who I saw in Gone Girl and thought was a good actor, but nope, I was wrong. He's not. He's awful in this. That character is so terrible. Krang is terrible. Shredder is terrible. The villains in this are awful. They just crammed them all in, and it ruined what would have been a much better movie. The Turtles are great. The part it picks up at the end where they kind of learn to be a team and stuff. That stuff was good. It could have been a lot. It could have been a lot better if they spent more time with that and less time just telling us, hey, Krang, Shredder, and Baxter Stockman are all working together, and maybe we'll turn Tyler Perry into a giant fly in the next movie.
That could have been okay. So here's one of the things I've always thought about the Turtles. I watched them growing up, and I always thought it was like jacked up. They're like, Leonardo's the leader. Donatello knows machines. Okay, both of those things are great. Raphael's cool but rude. Like, how long does that work for you? How far can you?
I like the way they do Raph in these movies.
Hold on. And then Michelangelo is a party dude. So, like, to me, they're always like, oh, so you have the two guys that are actually assets, and then you have these other two guys. But in this movie, they tried to sell you on that, Raphael's got the brute force, and Michelangelo's got heart. And they come to that final fight scene, and I feel like they just don't really sell you on that.
Yeah,
they still
that's
sell
fair.
you on that Leonardo's the leader and that Donatello's super smart, but and maybe even a little bit on Michelangelo's heart, but they leave Raph out, which is fair. Raph always kind of has felt that middle brother neglect to me. But I don't know. I still kind of like this movie. I had a good time watching it. I don't like Brad Carrot, but I thought he did pretty good as Krang. I don't like Tony Shalhoub as Splinter.
It's really
I don't
weird.
think that's good.
It's like weird casting.
Yeah, it sounds like I would rather it be some no name. But one of the most distracting things, because it was just such an obvious like ploy, was so they have Laura Linney's character, who was like chief commissioner of the police or whatever, and she's just followed around by this Asian woman that feels like she was put in there in post and with CGI, so that this movie's not like, oh yeah, everybody that's Asian is a bad guy. It felt really forced, felt really stupid and cheap, but I don't know. I still had a good time. I really liked Bebop and Rocksteady. I thought Seamus did a good job.
They look terrible.
Oh yeah, I liked them more as humans, but I liked Seamus's voice work. I thought he did a really good job. I was really impressed because he's not like known for his speaking ability, but I thought he did a good job.
The Turtles looked a lot better in this movie than they did in the first.
So much better. They had like. They looked like they were there. They had a lot of texture. When they got wet, they looked good. They clearly put a lot more effort into making.
But then Bebop and Rocksteady looked awful. I thought Krang looked awful too. Not as bad as Bebop and Rocksteady, but
yeah, I mean, I think it kind of got a pass because it did feel super cartoony anyways, and it wasn't trying to be real life. And I don't know, it felt goofy. I didn't like Stephen Amell as Casey Jones. That's just not. I like Stephen Amell. I love that show Arrow, but I don't know. I just wasn't impressed.
I liked the Casey Jones from the original movie way better.
Yeah, me too.
That guy's supposed to be kind of like a little crazy, little off kilter, and he just a cop who was good at hockey in this movie.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. And Will Arnett was passable in this movie. I'm not a big Will Arnett fan anyways, but I thought he actually kind of fit this role that this character had taken on since the first movie a little better. I don't know. I had a lot of fun with this movie. I can't really complain too much beyond that.
Yeah, I didn't like it as much as you, but if you got kids and you like Ninja Turtles and they like Ninja Turtles, you'll have a pretty good time watching this. It's not bad at all. It's just, man, could they not stop telling me that Baxter Stockman and Shredder were working together? Just couldn't stop telling me.
I kind of feel like they sold me a little bit on it, like that Stockman wants the recognition. He wants to leave guys like Steve Jobs as footnotes, and he wants to be.
He was already working for the Shredder before any of that happened.
No, I think he probably didn't just have that thought then, that he had that thought prior to working with Shredder.
Probably would have been better not working with the criminal than to accomplish that. Like, I think the dude's smarter. I mean, you're not supposed to think too much about this movie. I get it. It's about 4 or 6 feet turtles that are ninjas, but who like pizza. But it just, that part of it just really, that first 30, 40 minutes where there's cramming Bebop, Rocksteady, Krang, Shredder, and Baxter Stockman all together, it just really annoyed me. Just pick a few bad guys, maybe actually give them some motivation other than just saying they're working together over and over again, and maybe spend a little more time with the Turtles, which is really the good part of these movies. I think they, Johnny Knoxville aside, I think they've cast these well. I think they have the attitudes kind of right. I still really love the first movie a lot. I still think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't gone back and done those 3. For the next one, we probably will if we make a third one.
Oh, well, I mean, I think they pretty much said they're making a third one, right?
Well, the movie said that, but if it doesn't do well, which it's done moderate at the box office so far.
I think they'll make a third one. I mean,
okay.
I mean, it's not like we can come up with original stuff anymore. So.
Well, yeah, but so this one, what do we have left to see in the third one? I feel
Baxter Stockman as a fly.
The fly. Genghis Frog is still available.
Well, I mean, Krang and Shredder are coming back, right?
But
Krang's got.
But you got to have something new too, right? Like if they had just had Krang and not had the Technodrome, I think that probably would have helped. But I liked seeing all the stuff in here. I like all that stuff. But yeah, I think it makes going out. I mean, maybe they don't even want to stop at 3 movies. I don't know that that's a thing anymore. I think I still kind of think people just want to make trilogies. But I think people just want to make as many. They just want to squeeze every penny out of it they can. So I don't know. I don't know where they go from here. But I enjoyed this movie. 3 bro kicks out of 5.
Far from the worst thing you'll watch, but only a 2 out of 5 for me.
All right, so real quick, I know Kurtis gets outraged when I get outraged about other people's outrage. So I'm not going to do Tony's tantrum anymore. I'm going to do a segment called Tony's Talk Time. And what I want to talk about this week is just a little silly, but I'm not going to get outraged about it, is Rose McGowan, another super old chick who doesn't get work anymore, who's never really talented. She had this big problem with the X-Men Apocalypse billboard. I think it was in L.A., where it's got the scene of Oscar Isaac choking Mystique. And she says it perpetuates violence against women, and that this 9-year-old had asked her dad, why is that man beating up that woman, and that this is the biggest problem in the world.
I can answer that question for that little girl. It's because that woman is a super powerful BA hero, and that's a bad guy, and bad guys don't usually do nice things. And that woman is very powerful and could stop him, and he's trying to stop her from stopping him.
Kurtis is contributing to Tony's talk time, but he's exactly right. Okay, so let's be just really clear about what we should actually be teaching kids here. Let's just teach kids that violence against somebody that doesn't want to have violence is not okay. If somebody, whether it's a man or woman, if you're just going to go beat up somebody randomly, it's not okay. Okay, 2, we need to recognize that bad people do bad things. I don't know when this became such a big thing, but I remember even maybe 5 or 7 years ago that Chris Jericho, who played a bad guy in the World Wrestling Entertainment at the time, they were in Brazil, and he did a classic heel move that bad guys in wrestling have been doing for years, and he spat on the Brazilian flag, and they suspended him for 30 days for it. And I'm like, where do we stop this at? That bad guys? No, that's the thing, is bad guys do bad things, and then in entertainment, and then good guys get the comeuppance on them, and then everyone feels good because something bad happened to the bad person. So again, if Floyd Mayweather and Ronda Rousey want to fight, and they're both adults that are cognizant,
take it down just a little bit. You're starting to get outraged.
Okay, then let's let them fight. Women can do things men can do. I don't know why everyone thinks women aren't capable of doing things that men are. They do it all the time. Women can fight. Men can fight. If they decide they want to fight, let them fight. But let's just agree, if somebody doesn't want to get beat up and they're not doing anything that absolutely deserves for them to get beat up, that violence against them is not an okay thing. Let's teach our kids that. Not that just men beating up women is okay, because women beating up men isn't okay either. It's just a really sexist. It's sexism in the name of sexism, which is crazy. But
The bad guys doing bad thing one always cracks me up. I try not to get into this outrage stuff. I mean, I definitely have before. I definitely still do. I'm as guilty as anyone. But I really tried. I saw the Rose McGowan thing. I just laughed and flipped to the next news story because it's so ridiculous.
It's old women that got by on their looks for a long time, and now they have nothing else to do but just complain about stuff that's none of their business. If Rose McGowan wants to put up that Marilyn Manson money and make a movie where that doesn't happen, go for it. But other than that, stop telling people how to spend their money. All right.
Yeah. All right. You didn't get too outraged there.
Yeah, it's Tony's talk time, not Tony's
Okay.
time.
All right.
Okay, what do we got coming up next week, Curtis?
Next week we'll be looking at Pop Star, which I think has some big long title, but I don't know what it is.
Never Stop, Never Stopping.
Okay. With the Lonely Island guys. I'm kind of looking forward to it. We'll look at Zootopia, which I still haven't seen yet. My son went and saw it. I haven't seen it, so he's ready to watch it with me again. He's been telling me I need to see it, so we'll look at that. And a movie I've never heard of until today called Anomalisa. So I don't know anything about that one, but check out next week and I'll tell you about it. Tony probably will too.
Yeah, I'll be here.
Yeah. Tony usually watches the movie, so.
Usually. I've really suffered. I've suffered much more than you have. I mean,
you still made us watch 2 Paul Blart Mall Cop movies in the same week. I've never done that.
I think you've done worse, but that's a different debate for a different day. Until then, gotta go, son.
Pay attention.